Hey there everyone, this is Fillers here from ComputerKing.com web hosting, trying to come and build a wonderful, fun little video for you on how to go and get set up with WordPress on your very own web hosting platform. The reason for creating this video is I have a lot of different clients that contact me or get signed up for web hosting and they don't exactly know how to get started with getting set up with their own WordPress website. Either they have WordPress up on wordpress.com and they want to move it on over to their own web hosting, or just various things. They have an HTML website and they want to get started with something a little fancier, a content management system. So this video is created for the purpose of helping people out that are kind of in that circumstance. So to get started, generally you'll go and you'll get set up with some sort of web hosting platform. And once you do, you'll receive an email that'll contain information along the lines of this. It'll provide you your hosting package, your domain, your billing cycle, your due date. It'll have your login credentials for CPanel, which will contain your username and password. It'll contain you some brief information on how to access CPanel, whether or not it's just the IP address because you don't have the domain propagated, or whether or not it's actually the full URL. Generally, you can actually just access it by going to your website /cPanel. So just whatever your domain is /cPanel, and that should usually take you into the login location so you can log it in and access the backend. It should also provide you the name servers, which allows you to go and set up and point your domain on over to the IP address of whatever web hosting platform you're using. It also provides some information like your how to access it via FTP. Generally, you just need to make use of your domain or the IP address, and then use in the login credentials that you've been provided for your cPanel. And that'll allow you to access and log into your FTP so you can upload files. It should also, if you're lucky and they're nice to you and they hook you up, provide you some basic mail information on how to go and get set up for your mail. So with that being said, we've received this information, we're good to go, we understand it, and we want to now log into our cPanel. When you log into your cPanel, you'll be presented with a page that looks similar to this. This top section might look different. You might have some different options here, but by and large, most of the information you see will be quite similar. You'll have some stats on the left-hand side, which will provide you, how much disk space you've used, what your monthly bandwidth transfer is, your domain, as well as your home directory, in case you need to write any scripts for your website on how to access it. So for now, we want to get set up with WordPress. Very easy, very simple, but for WordPress to work, we're going to need to get set up with a database. So the first thing you're going to want to do is on the right-hand side, either with the Find utility, or you can just scroll and find it, you're going to need to look for the database section. Now with the database section found, look at that, I located it, it's good to go. I'm even pointing it out to you. We are going to click on the MySQL databases. Now what this is going to let us do, it's going to let us create a MySQL database, and it's going to let us create a user, attach those two together, and use for a WordPress config. So we're here, we're good to go. Our hosting package has allowed us to create databases. You'll notice that the opening and beginning part of your database name is static. You can't change it. That's to make it so that you have a unique database and you're not potentially trying to access someone else's database. It will begin with your actual username. So your username, that's the reason why your username is usually always set up to 7 or 8 characters as a max, is so you can have 8_8, and that means that it's allowed for a total of 17 characters for your name. But for this circumstance, generally because for your user, at least for the default setups for a lot of different hosting packages, it's only allowed about 15 characters, I believe. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a nice short new database. So we have your webs_, and since we're making a WordPress website, let's just go with Word. Create that database. Out of the database, your webs_word. Now, the reason I like to do it and make it so that it's very short is so that I can actually create my MySQL user to be the exact same thing. And that way, when I go and create the configuration, it makes things nice and easy. If later on I need to make a script so I can automatically make a backup of my database, it makes it nice and easy, nice and simple. It reduces errors in the long run. Now, in order to make it so your MySQL user works, you're going to need to create a password. So for this circumstance, to make a nice, strong, good password to prevent people from accessing it and figuring it out for you, I recommend using the password generator. You click on the button, comes up with this little section right here. And what I always do is I click the advanced options, and you'll be presented with some options: length, alpha characters, non-alpha characters. Length is fine. 12 is very, very hard to crack. Alpha characters, uppercase and lowercase, very easy. I've seen issues before based off of all my different experience with actually making use of symbols. So because of that, I always go and remove symbols and just make it so that there's only numbers. With that being said, I have a nice strong password, 12 characters long. I selected it. I'm going to right click it and copy. And then I'm going to open up Notepad and make a copy of that actual password. That way, later on, when I create the configuration file for WordPress, it's good to go. It's an easy location, and I pretty much only need it for that one time. Click on the little button. I have copied this password to a safe place. Click on Use Password, and there we go. Voila! It's copied it into the password and the password again field. With that being good, as you can see, the strength is very strong, 100 out of 100, which is pretty cool. Click on the Create User. Added user yourwebs_word with that password. Go back. The other thing you're going to want to notice and make note of is sometimes based on your configuration, I'm scrolling up and down to see whether or not it actually displays. Based on your configuration, there might be a little section right here that says that you have a remote database setup. Right now, because my database server and my actual hosting server are exactly the same, it doesn't display that. It's just going to be localhost. But if you're having problems and issues connecting up to your database, I'd verify and look right around in this section right here to see whether or not it tells you that this makes use of a remote database server. If so, it'll provide you the URL or the IP address that you need to hook up to that, and that'll slightly change your configuration file, but not an issue. Now that we've done that, we need to add the user to the database. So you'll have a select box right here with your users, all the users that you have, and a select box right here with all the databases you have. Since this is a brand new CPanel account and we just created one database, we created one user, pretty much it's exact standard, good to go. Everything's set up the way I want. Click on the add button. We'll be presented with some options right here for my user, my database. And pretty much right now, this page, you'll never actually change anything else. You're always just going to select all privileges and you make changes. What that does is it gives your user all the privileges to access the database, meaning that it can insert content, it can update content, it can delete content, it can do whatever it needs to do to make your life easier. So with that being said, we can see right here we have a database, we have a user, and we actually have the size of it as well, and some actions. So we're good to go. We see that our database is hooked up with our user. We can move on to step 2. That's taken care of. Now what we need to do is either in a new tab or just in the existing address bar, connect on over to wordpress.org. So with wordpress.org, I would give you the exact link on how to download the content, but since WordPress updates and changes so often, it's probably better for you by the time that you watch this video, just go to wordpress.org and download either the latest zip file or the latest tar file. The method by which I'm going to teach you, your extraction tool is going to be able to download either one. Generally, you'll find that the tar file is a little bit smaller, but whatever you're comfortable with. Maybe you already have WinZip installed and you're good to go. But just go ahead, click on the button. It's going to download it into your download directory. For ease of use, I've already downloaded it. It's good to go. But I'm going to be making use of a tool called WinRAR. WinRAR, it's a great thing to have installed on your computer if you don't actually have WinZip installed, or if you already have WinZip. This is vastly superior because it'll extract zip files as well as tar files. I will provide this down in the description so you can easily access it. All you have to do is know whether or not you have your 64-bit operating system or 32-bit and install it and you're good to go. So for this circumstance, I'm going to right-click WordPress -3.5.1.zip and I'll be presented 2 options. You can either extract it here, which will extract all the files to the current directory, or you can extract it into a new directory that gets created. Generally, with the content, if I'm not familiar with it, I'm just going to extract it into a directory with this, where it has this little file name right here, which essentially just takes the file name, gets rid of the extension, and that becomes your new directory. The only circumstance is that if you have 1,000 files inside of that zip or tar file, it'll extract everything right here. and it can sometimes mix and it make it very, very difficult to find the content that you need. So that's always kind of a safe option, which is extracting into a folder. So we do that, and we notice that it actually has a folder inside of it, which is the WordPress folder. Double click into that, and you'll see all the files in the base directory for your WordPress website. Now, with all this information right here, all we need to really concentrate on, and the only file we're going to mess with, is this wp-config.sample.php file. Take that, make a copy of it, and then just paste it. And with that, we are going to take this wp-config-sample-copy, and we're just going to rename it to wp-config. The reason why is that if you update WordPress, all it's going to do is going to update the sample file and not actually update your configuration file. Meaning that every time you update WordPress, you don't have to worry about going into your configuration file and making changes to updating it with your actual database name, database password. It makes updating it a lot easier. So with that being said, now that we've created it, right-click it. You can either open it with like Notepad or WordPad, whatever text editor you're comfortable with. For my coding purposes, I make use of a program called JEdit. So I'm going to open it up in JEdit. It's color-coded, makes it nice and easy for me to access. Okay, so now that we're here, we have our database for WordPress. Now all we need to do is just go back to our CPanel, select our database, insert it right here. Database name, yourwebs_word. Database user, now we already made it, so it's the exact same thing, yourwebs_word. Database password, that's what we went and we copied on over to the Notepad file. So that's what this is right here. So I'm going to select this, downsize it, and put it into this field. You want to make sure that you always have the quotes on the left hand and right hand side, and otherwise you're going to run into an error and you're going to run into some difficulties and it'll be a pain in the butt. Before, when I went and I talked about how you might have a section right here having to do with an external database, you would put that into this field right here for your MySQL hostname. By default, 99% of the time, it's going to be localhost, especially if you're going with a shared hosting. Now that we're good to go, I'm going to save it. Control S on most text editors, or you can go to File Save. Now that that's good to go, now's the portion where we need to upload the content up to our shared hosting. So FileZilla, if you don't actually have an FTP client, I highly recommend it. I'm going to provide a link to it in the description down below, but it's absolutely wonderful for going and uploading files, downloading files, having a site manager where you can actually access and quickly connect to content in the future. Because if you have shared hosting and you have a website now, you're most likely going to need to connect up every once in a while, and you don't want to have to access this file every single time to get your FTP information. Sometimes you might forget your username, might forget your password, and generally once you've been able to connect to it, none of that information is going to change anymore. So with that being said, let's go into FileZilla. We have our interface. For ease of use, I've already provided the host name, I've already provided the username, and I already have the password filled in. So let's go in, hit the Quick Connect tool. Now on the right hand side is my remote location. So this is actually what my web server consists of. Left hand side is my local location. So you're going to want to browse to where you went and created the WordPress information. I refreshed because it didn't actually have the folder in there. I'm going to double click into my WordPress, and as you can see, here's my WordPress files that I went and downloaded. Here's my wp-config file that I went and created and edited. So on the right hand side, you don't want to put the files in the base directory, which is this little slash right here. On a WordPress configuration for a CPanel hosting, most of the time you're either going to get public_HTML or www. If you're on Plesk, it's going to be something called www-root. So go into public_HTML. I always work with that one just because that's the actual authentic folder. Double click in here, and this is actually our base directory for our website, meaning that if I create a file in here called test.txt that just says hello world, if I put whatever I put into here, as it currently stands, I'll be able to access up on the server. So that's where we need to go and upload our WordPress information and our WordPress install. So on the left hand side, I've gone ahead, hit Control A, selected everything, and all you need to do is just drag it on over to the right-hand side. You'll see that you'll have all the files queued up, and you'll see as the files are successfully transferred, as this number decreases and the number of successful transfers increases. If you have some problems or you have some issues or something times out, your files are going to go into the failed transfers section. All you need to do is click on this tab and then select the files, right click, and set reset and requeue all, and that'll go ahead and pop them on over on the left hand side in your queued files and allow you to once again upload. Now there's 1,000 files, which is a lot of content in your wp-admin, wp-content, wp-includes. So you're going to want to just let it go, let it upload all the content. Now while we have a couple seconds here as we're waiting for all this information to upload, you'll notice that you have 3 folders. Generally, you're not going to ever touch anything in the wp-admin. You're never going to touch anything in the wp-includes. What you might do is you might actually go online and purchase a theme. You know, there's something special, a unique theme that you have to actually pay for, which means that you can't automatically make use of the user interface for WordPress to download that content and install it for you. If that is being said, what you're going to need to do is access the wp-content directory. There's a themes folder. You'll go into here, and this is where your themes are going to live. So if you download something, it'll be called, let's call it custom theme, and you would go and upload it into that WP content and allow you to be able to be accessible, make changes to it. Also, if you get a personal plugin and download a personal plugin and purchase, it's going to go into the plugins directory. By default, WordPress comes with that Akismet plugin that all of them come with. So if you go and you actually have some additional ones, it's going to go into that directory as well. And as well as if you go and you make use of the interface on WordPress to download plugins, it's going to go into those directories. Now, as you can see on the right-hand side, it actually went and uploaded that directory. So we can go into there, and it's already started populating that information. So once again, on your remote server is where you're going to upload that content. Plugins, wp-content/plugins for your downloaded plugins, wp-content/themes for your custom themes. So with that being said, we are going to allow this upload to finish. And we're back. I want to do a quick little tutorial for you in case you're not familiar with the ability of uploading more than just 2 files at a time. Depending on your web host situation and how their configuration is, generally they have maybe about 50 max upload connections at a time. Right now, FileZilla is set to make use of 2 of those connections. If you want to, and if you have the capacity for it, you can go and actually go to Edit and Settings, select Transfers, and change the max simultaneous transfers. I had it at 2. I've upgraded it and changed it to 4. What that means, though, is that there's a higher possibility for you to time out. And when you actually are accessing in CPanel, if you go to your home section and you go to FTP session control, it's going to show you all this information. So it's going to show you how many people are connected on up, whether or not their status is idle, and usually they have a certain amount of time that it takes for you to actually be able to time out. Meaning that if you're maxed out at 10, so you can only have up to 10 idle connections at a time, you can potentially make it so that you're unable to upload content for a time until all of that timeout expires and those slots open up again. So if your host allows you, you can increase it. You can put it up to 10, you can put it up to 20, whatever's accessible. But just a warning that you have the possibility of making it so it's not accessible to you in the future. So as you can see, all my files were uploaded. I have no failed transfers. So all the content that I need up on the website is now good. It's there. Let us try accessing our site. There we go. Our WordPress site is now set up. We have a title. Let's go and say your website. Our username will be admin. Our password, let's make it 1234, 1234. And email, let's do Cameron@computerking.com. And privacy, we always want to allow search engines to index this site, meaning that they can have our information posted up on the Google search engine. Install WordPress. All right, WordPress has been installed. Were you expecting more steps? Sorry to disappoint. So we are now good to go. Let's go to admin 1, 2, 3, 4. And now our WordPress site is up and going. There we go. Very default WordPress setup, good to go. Everything's taken care of, and now we can start adding content and setting up different and new and involved themes. That was Cameron Fillers from ComputerKing.com web hosting, showing you a default installation of WordPress. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'd love to help on out. If you need help with web hosting, you're more than welcome to get set up with a shared hosting environment over on ComputerKing.com. Thank you so much. Take care and see you guys later.